Hi, this is Frank Rodriguez Villela, and I'm here. I'm always excited about anybody that I talk with as far as interviewing, and but this is really special. I have to say this, Grant, because this is Grant Geissman. For you, the people that don't know, this is Grant, an incredible player. But he was one of my heroes when I was in Texas. I knew about Grant because of all the work he did with Chuck Mangione, right?
Yep.
And an iconic. This is the most iconic solo to me. It's they should put it on Guitar Hero. Is it on Guitar Hero by any chance?
I have no idea, but he's talking about the Chuck Mangione tune called "Feels So Good."
Feels So Good,
which has an extended, kind of improvised guitar solo that got played on, top 40 radio. It was a huge hit.
Yeah, it was amazing,
So,
it was one of the. To me, and then I knew, actually at that point, I started realizing where we were from, California, and I had no intention to come out here, and I wanted to come to to California to study and just to get lessons and then go back to Texas, and then and it so happens that the teacher that I was going to work with was a guy named Tony Risi that also Grant works with.
Yeah.
So he was like
that was the first kind of real album I ever played on. Tony Risi and his 5 guitars played Charlie Christian.
Oh yeah.
And it was 5-guitar band. Everything was written out.
Right.
And there weren't really guitar solos to speak of. The solos went to like the keyboard guy and the sax player. But all the guitar stuff was 5-part harmony based on Charlie Christian solos.
Yeah. It was amazing.
And it was an incredible, work that he did.
So because I knew this stuff, as I came as a young man out to California, I knew who Grant was. I knew who Grant Geissman was. I knew. So to me, this is really special.
Well, thank you, Frank. Yeah, it's good to see you after all these years.
I know. We I don't know why we didn't keep in touch, or we kept a little bit in touch. We would talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so so I already knew Grant from the work he'd done with different artists, and obviously he was playing with my heroes, so because Tony Risi was a big hero of mine. But I came out here and I knew y'all were doing some great stuff. It was a great moment to be out here. But then I just started we all meet, we all come up here and meet and get to know each other, and we just sort of end up working or together, or we end up. I think I subbed for you a couple of times with
it's all a blur at this point.
It's all a blur. I think it was Andy Howe was the musical director.
Sure.
And then he asked me for some particular gig, and he called me last minute. Can you do the sound check? It's going to be at such and such thing in Beverly Hills. Can you do it? And I said, yeah, I can do it. I said, who couldn't do it that you're calling me in such a last minute? Oh, Grant couldn't do it because he was. I said, oh, okay. So wow. It was an interesting, but I enjoyed it because it was an honor to work with musicians that you work with, and it was really fun. But this video is really set up because I sort of try to set it up for just finding out about what inspired you as a musician to become a musician. Like did you have teachers, or like what was your first I guess really inspiration or aspiration to say, hey, I want to do that? So
this is going to be dating me, and you'll kind of reveal my age, but if it's not already self-evident. But the first kind of guitar music I heard, I was kind of basically in elementary school, and there were some kids a few years older than me that had like a surf music band, like playing like the Ventures and Wipeout and all this kind of stuff. And I used to run home after school if I knew they were rehearsing like around the corner, and I'd sit there and they'd have like Fender Jaguar guitars, and the light would be gleaming on the chrome, and I'd be like, yeah, and drums and whatever. And I thought that was cool, And then when the Beatles came out, it was kind of like, okay, that's it. Guitar was already cool, but now I have to get a guitar. I'm doing it,
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
And that was locally. Was that here in
California?
No,
I grew up in California, but I grew up in San Jose, which is
north.
45 minutes or so. San Jose is about 45 minutes south of San Francisco.
Yeah.
But Bay Area kind of thing.
Right.
It's actually where Apple and all that stuff is now. But
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, it was kind of like half orchards and half built up. So
yeah.
you could disappear in the orchards until the guy chased you out of there.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you grew up in San Jose.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always, for some reason, I thought you grew up you went to school. So you went to school in San Jose?
Well, yeah. High school, first couple of years of college in San Jose, and then I realized down here is where everything was happening, all the cool studio work and all the great players that I was listening to on records and stuff like that. So it's like, I got to get down to LA. And the excuse was to go to Cal State Northridge, to study, which was great. But really, I just wanted to get down here,
Because Mom, I got this idea. Was it Call Arts?
Cal Arts.
Is that what it was called?
No, it was called, well, before I went down there, the real old timers used to call it Valley State.
Oh,
Valley State College.
Cool.
But CSUN, California State University at Northridge.
Oh, okay.
Cal Arts is way up.
Is it also different? Okay.
Yeah,
different,
it's a whole different thing.
Different world. So you started, before you went to college, did you study with a teacher in San Jose?
So what happened was I bugged my parents for, I don't know, probably a good 6 months, I want to get a guitar, get a guitar. And they kept hemming and hawing because I'm sure they thought I was going to outgrow this, And I never stopped bugging them. So when, this would have been December 1964. There you go, the cat's out of the bag. But under the Christmas tree was actually a really nice Martin guitar that they got me, and because my mom's philosophy is like, you can't start on a piece of junk instrument and expect. So she went down to the music store and they recommended this, so I got that, and that's what I started on.
So that was your mom doing.
My mom,
make that decision.
My mom was into it. Yeah, I didn't know what kind of guitar to get, or I didn't know, anything. But
it's so incredible. Our moms are so awesome.
Yeah, she was cool that way, So anyway, and I started taking lessons within like a week or two after I got the instrument. She called around and found a teacher, and it was kind of good and bad because this teacher, she said, "Go get Alfred's Basic Guitar Book, Book 1,"
Okay.
And so I was reading notes right away out of the book. And I stayed with her for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and I knew chords, and I could read Mary Had a Little Lamb and stuff like that. But at that time, what I really wanted to do is learn rock and roll tunes and Beatles stuff and whatever. And she really didn't know how to do that.
Right.
So I found another teacher, who could show me all the cool, tunes that were on the radio at the time and stuff like that.
So the stuff you wanted to know, you went out and did your own research to find that teacher?
Yeah, exactly. But I did have teachers really from day one, which is kind of good.
That is. Because
you don't have to reinvent the wheel, when you're starting out. Like, I don't know, what is this? Oh, and then they'll just show you what it is.
Right.
Now with the internet, I think it's a lot easier. You can actually just look at somebody and go, oh, I see what they're doing.
The visual part.
But in those days, you really had to sit down with somebody and they would show you stuff.
So when your mama got you that awesome guitar,
yeah,
it was how old were you then?
Let's see, 11, and then I would have turned 12, like maybe 4 months after that.
Okay, and then so you did your standard guitar lessons with this cat that taught you out of the Alfred's book. So this is
this is a lady.
A lady, okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Allen, her name was.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You got to plug Miss Allen.
She was very cool.
And so when you started looking for the stuff that you wanted to learn, so you how old were you when you got that other teacher or that other person?
Well, if I stayed with Mrs. Allen for 7 months, I would have been 12.
Okay.
I suppose.
So she got you going.
12 or 13, yeah. Well, yeah, she got me started reading notes and chords and stuff like that. And then, I could only go so far with her because I wanted to learn Beatles songs and she didn't really do that.
Yeah.
So the guy that I studied with, we're still friends now. He's a guitar player and composer, but his name was Jeff Levin.
Jeff Levin.
And he was in a very popular local band called People.
Okay. Who
eventually got signed to Capitol Records, and they had a hit record with a cover of the Zombies tune, I Love You.
Oh, wow.
And so Jeff eventually moved down to LA, and so I could no longer study with him. And then there was another guy at the same music store named Don Serralo. I'm happy I still remember all these names.
That's good.
And he was a guy that played in clubs and kind of, he said, well, rock and roll is great, but here, how about a G13th chord? Or
So
how about,
you started getting complicated? I mean, more.
how about, well, we can learn some bossa nova tunes, and there's different chords than some of the other, rock tunes. And so he started steering me a little more into jazzy stuff.
Yeah. So, but the guy that you, as 11, the one that taught you the more
Jeff
the
Levin,
pop,
yeah.
more of the pop stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff would he just say, hey, I want to learn this song by?
I would go in and I would say, I want to learn Yesterday by the Beatles. And he would, if he didn't know it, he would say, week to week he'd go, well, if you know what you want to learn next week, bring the record in, or whatever. Or I would just literally bring the record in. I go, I want to learn this song, Over, Under, Sideways, Down by the Yardbirds.
Oh, awesome.
And he'd put it on his little portable 45, record player, and he'd sit there and go, oh, okay. And then he'd go, and he'd figure it out, and then I'd go, oh, I see what he's,
Yeah, you saw it.
I saw it, and then he would write it down kind of in a little notebook with not even real notes, just see like the kind of the shapes on the guitar.
So he was definitely a different teacher than your first teacher.
Yeah, he understood how to read music and stuff, but mostly it was,
hearing
it, and then he would show me stuff, and he taught me some theory. He was going to college. See, he was like a college kid at that time in a band, but also he was studying. So he would say, "Well, here's the circle of fifths," and he'd write it out, and it was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about," But it was a great thing. And then I segued into Don Cirallo, and he showed me more jazzy stuff, But I was kind of always schizophrenic because I liked playing in rock bands in the garage, garage bands and stuff.
Right.
I still have my 8th grade, I think it was 8th grade talent show trophy. Me and 2 other kids, 3rd place talent show, Rogers Junior High. We played Wipeout. We got 3rd place trophy. I still have the trophy.
That's awesome. That's great.
Anyway, yeah.
That's so cool. But those are moments, because all of that stuff builds just a pride, and it was.
You get some kind of recognition. It's like, and the band ahead of us. It was 7th grade because the band ahead of us were 8th graders, and they had a bass player, which we didn't have.
Oh, yeah. So you were probably you might have gotten first.
But by the way, the girl that won first place played the accordion.
Oh,
so
sure?
I don't know what the reference for judging was, but anyway,
it was wide.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's funny. But see, those are all important things. I mean, just knowing, because that's the beginning of just really being interested.
Well, the great thing is, you're playing music with your friends, and you're kind of learning stuff, and you're all learning together, and that's a big part of music to this day. I still play music with my friends, only now everyone's a professional.
Right.
But it's not any different than the old days.
It's the same feeling.
So there's a real camaraderie when you play, and it's pretty much. I always try to keep that same enthusiasm that I had, in the 7th grade talent show. You know what I mean?
You go back to that. Yeah, exactly. It's a feel. It's
because music is such a special thing in that you share it with other people and with the audience.
Right. And it's developing there as you play it. It's new, or it's so you got a good foundation. Sounded like you had a good guitar, great mom. You had.
I always was studying. I was playing. And the first kind of jazzy stuff was like big bands in high school.
Oh, wow! So you got to do.
Yeah, high school big band, but you figure out how to play in an ensemble and how to read music in that setting and
how to get out of the piano player's way and.
Eventually you learn that.
Yeah, right.
But trial and error.
Right. But that's the good thing about working with those bands, because all of a sudden guitar, it's there, but you got to learn to be minimal. You need to. There was a guy that I worked with, and he said, it's so nice to work with you. He was, I forgot his name. Ron Abel, I think was his name, or like that. It's just so cool, because he liked playing all over the place, and I would just go, check.
Oh, Ron. I know Ron. Yeah.
Is that right?
He plays a lot of stuff, so you kind of have to, okay,
and then
you take it.
So Ron, yeah.
Yeah,
so I just did a few gigs with him, and then he goes, you're just really so we work together. Well, I'm just staying out of the way, and making sure. So big band does that. in a way, you know, that development of until you have to solo or improvise, you know.
Yeah.
So you did that. You did big band. Was that a high school thing?
High school thing, and all, you know, really all through college as well. Because when I went to Northridge, that was a big deal. They had a really good, you know, jazz ensemble program at Northridge at the time.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing that, you know, because in Texas we hear about, you know, in Texas.
Were you at North Texas State? Or?
Well, no, I wanted to go to North Texas, and this actually the reason that I didn't go to North Texas is because I couldn't get in. I ended up coming to California because there was a great guitar teacher named Jack Peterson, and Peterson was the one who started the program in Berkeley. It was him and William Levitt and somebody else. Can't remember the person's name, but and then he moved down to Texas, and he started working in locally and then full time in North Texas. But when I tried to, I just applied too late.
Yeah.
So I kept bugging him. He said, "Oh no, I just can't let you in. I can't let you in. I'm sorry. They only want 5 people," because they were doing the quintet stuff, because that was what Jack was doing, you know. And so next thing I know, he said, "But you know, check out this guy. There's a guy in California that knows everything I know," and that was Tony Reese.
Nice.
So that's the reason. If it wasn't for all that rejection in Texas of going to that school, we wouldn't have met. So it was crazy. And then and it was sort of cool because you were on that gig. I mean, you knew Tony. How did so your experience doing the big band and then the stuff in the college and also big band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all ever have just rhythm section classes, or it was always just that?
I did most of that kind of stuff on my own.
Yeah.
At Cal State Northridge, people would come in and bring their charts so they could hear them played, you know, and the college band would play it, you know. One guy that used to come in and play was Louis Belson, this great jazz drummer.
Yeah.
And so I eventually started playing in Louis' big band. I did some albums with him, even when I was, I think, right out of college, still in college maybe. And then the other guy was Gerald Wilson, who was a great composer, big band leader.
Here in LA, right?
Here in LA, yeah. And because of Northridge, I ended up starting to play in his big band.
Oh, cool.
You know?
Yeah.
And Gerald used to kind of scope out who the good players were, and he would say, "Hey, can you put a little band together to play in my class, like on Tuesday night or whatever?" You know, so I would do that, and so that small group stuff was kind of like that on our own, but not really a sanctioned class.
And that was here in Los Angeles?
Yeah, because of Northridge.
Oh wow, that's cool. Did he he had a big band though, right?
Gerald? Yeah, that's what I mean. I used to play with his band.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, because I'm remembering those names and remembering the music they did. And so he was, so when you did that, the big band stuff, I guess that helped to work with Tony, right? Tony Reese. I mean, because he had, what
happened was a friend of mine, this is all, you know, you used to do rehearsal bands at the Union or whatever, just so you could play and meet people and all of that. So a buddy of mine said, "Hey, do you know about the Tony Rizzi 5-guitar band?" I'm like, "I don't know, what is that?" And he's like, "Oh, they play every Friday. They rehearse every Friday at the Union from 10 to 12 or 1. Mm-hmm. He goes, "Just go down there and you can hear them." So I went down and I hung around, and Tony was pretty gregarious, you know. So on a break, I said hi to him, and I said my name, and he goes, "I know your name. You played on the Cal State Northridge album that they're playing on K-Jazz, you know?" And he goes, "I wrote your name down because I wanted to see if you wanted to ever do the band." And I'm like, "I would love to." So the next week I was rehearsing with those guys. But that's how stuff happens, you know? You just, especially when you're young and in college, you just, you know, there's so many people that you meet and so many experiences, and it all goes to like kind of getting yourself going.
Going out there and
doing stuff. Yeah,
you know? I know at that time that he had like Jim Webley. Is that who he had? Jim Webley was on there. And Tim May was
Tim May was there.
Webley. I can't remember the other cats.
Yeah. Who else was there?
He played guitar too, right, on that?
It was 5 guitars total.
And Tony Reese again was my teacher I had him for 2 years, so it was a great experience. He lived in Huntington Beach, and I would go out there, and so as soon as that started happening, did you study over here in California, in Los Angeles? Did you get any other teachers to?
Mostly classical, because at that time you couldn't major in like, contemporary guitar or whatever. It was all classical guitar. So
Isn't that crazy?
I studied with Ron Purcell, who was great. And I really had never messed with classical guitar much. And Ron was very cool, but I remember you had to go in, kind of do an audition to be in the program.
Right.
And there were like Ron Purcell and like a few other judges from other schools and I don't even know who they were. But so I walked in there with my Gibson L5 and I opened the case and I took it out, and one of the judges looks at it and he goes, "What are you going to do with that?"
Oh my God.
Like super snarky.
Yeah, so a Gibson L5 is a hollow body that's like an acoustic, looks right.
It has pickups.
Yeah. So he saw that.
And this is supposed to be a classical guitar like this.
Right.
And anyway, so I said, "Well, look, I don't play classical guitar. I've never done anything, but why not? I'll play you some chord melody stuff, and I'll show you where I am." So I played like "Watch What Happens" or some kind of. And after Ron goes, "Okay, this is no problem. We just have to work on your classical right hand, but we're all good here. Nothing to see. Move along, folks." Like that. Ron was very cool, but these other guys would have kicked me out. They were pretty much jerks. Snobby kind of classical guitar thing. But Ron Purcell was always very positive. Very cool.
That's the thing about and there's a lot of places still that have that feeling. Well, we have to work on the right hand, and as a guitar player. Or a guitar teacher and educator and somebody that's putting together crazy little instruments, it's about making things easy for people to be involved in music, Because you mentioned something, a lot of these things are for one string at a time type of playing. Lots of times a kid that would play one of my instruments, and this is just, I might edit this out, I'm not too sure. but it's meant so it can be easy for people. You want
by the way, since we're talking, what is this instrument that you handed me?
Well, it's just a regular. It's actually the low notes are like we would call it a contra guitar. So you have the E, the A.
So these are an octave lower than a real regular guitar.
The first three are an octave lower, and then
these are regular.
Yeah. So you have the three. It's basically like splitting the guitar up. So anybody can take it whichever way they want to. They want to keep it simple, you just play the low notes. Some people, that's all they want to do, But there are programs, like you said, in the classical world, that you have to do it all. And so that's so time consuming. So I'm glad. Who was the teacher? What was his name?
Ron Purcell. Very cool.
I love that.
So you have to be positive. You can put everybody down and be negative, or you can be positive and then nurture people, and that's what education. That's what he did, and that's what education should be about.
So he let you be in the program. Was that what happened? He let you be in the.
I mean, I could already read music. I could already play all the chords. I just had to grow my fingernails out and figure out,
the patterns.
the thumb,
PIMA, PIM.
all that stuff. It was, it wasn't that hard. So it's like the guys that were gonna, what are you gonna do with that? It's like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that, and as a teacher, you always want to give people a good feedback. You want to give them affirmation when they do something good, but you don't want to ever say, well, that was, Segovia was really bad about really digging into people.
Segovia Ron Purcell knew Segovia, so he came and did a clinic one time at Northridge. He didn't play, he was just talking.
All right.
And somebody asked him, what do you think of Django Reinhardt? And Segovia goes, "Do not show me the deformed hand."
Oh,
I was like, wow.
He said that?
Yeah, and then somebody else asked him, "What do you think of Joe Pass?" And he goes, "I don't know who that is."
Oh my God.
But Segovia, he invented, the literature for modern classical guitar.
Yeah.
So, he gets a break.
Yeah. Well, Segovia Andres Segovia was considered the father of bringing guitar into the concert halls, where people would come and see.
Well, and he invented the literature because he took, Bach, preludes and two-part inventions and transposed them all for the guitar. Yeah. So he wrote it all down. So he created the literature.
Yeah, right. So so people can get. I mean, and he was an authority. I actually just checked out. Went to a couple of his concerts in Houston back when I was a kid, and I saw him here at USC. Did a master class.
Yeah.
And you get people in there, and he was like, so I'm sure it's people that worked on on that particular music for a while, but he would just shred them. They would just get them and going, oh, and the guy that you started studying with on the classical, he just sort of like, he wanted to invite you into the world of music.
Right.
So, and I liked it, but Segovia was just tearing apart these people and going like, but that seems to be once you don't go in that direction where you're totally into it, as far as the classical, the teacher, it's a different.
That's right.
Different ball of wax, as they say.
The guitar joke. There's this rock and roll guitar player, and he's trying to get his guitar in tune, and it takes him 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He's just going at it, just can't seem to quite get it in tune. So now it's half an hour goes by, still tuning. Now it's an hour. Finally, someone's like, dude, you've been trying to tune that guitar for an hour, and he's like, what are you doing? And he goes, I went and saw Segovia last week, and he kind of took maybe 30 seconds, and he's ready to go. And the rock guitar player goes, yeah, some guys just don't care.
That's a good one. Oh, that's funny. Well, it's because whenever I listen to any of those records, and I mean, I always tell people that's there's certain people you should listen to, and if you want to just to hear what the guitar is about, and I give them a lot of credit, but if you hear some of those recordings, you can hear like maybe if you would have just got a little bit.
Right.
So, but he had a great tone. He had a beautiful. Do you ever hear him live, Segovia?
No, I have records, but I never heard him live.
Yeah, I heard him live. It's amazing. That's where you hear it as a whole. And he was already in his probably late 70s, early 80s, So I get that. So now I'm giving you my age, how old I am.
So you're 80 now?
Yeah, I'm 80.
Yeah.
82, but you're funny. So after all that, how long were you in when did you move to Los Angeles? What year was that?
I moved here at the end of 1973.
The end of 1973.
Yeah, so I've been here in LA way longer than I was ever in San Jose.
Okay, so you're
so I'm kind of a native, really.
Yeah, you're a native. So for some reason, I always thought you grew up here, and for some reason, I thought you went to Eagle Rock High School. I don't know. Maybe that was Tony Morales.
Tony Morales went to that.
Yeah.
And also Carlos Vega, I think.
Oh, that's it, Carlos Vega. Yeah. So at that point in '73, how long did it take you? Like you started sitting in, and obviously Tony Reese's. That was like, what year was that when you recorded that? Those albums.
I want to say 75 or 6 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You kind of do stuff right away, but it might, like little casuals and just whatever, stupid stuff. But but you're doing, you're doing stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy because it's like, we call it casuals, and in Houston we call them one nighter. You're doing a one nighter, and or a single,
And in New York they call them club dates,
dates.
like a wedding or whatever is a club.
That's
date.
a club date. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I remember casual. Everybody get what is that book, The Thomas Guide? And then you look into you figure out where all these parties are. Yeah. It's amazing, huh?
I don't know how I used to get around without you'd have to write specific directions down for me because I have no sense of direction. So it'd be like, okay, are you sure it's a right and whatever. But now with Nav, it's like, I'll just put it in there.
Yeah,
it's a miracle thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So how long from that point where you're doing stuff and you're doing the casuals and doing rehearsal
You just
stuff.
start doing stuff little by little. I started playing with Gerald. I started playing with Tony Rizzi. Started playing with Louis Belson. I did a live album with Louis, up at Concord Jazz Festival, I think in '76. So within a few years I was doing stuff.
You were doing stuff, yeah. That's awesome,
Yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a great player and you put the time in, and but it was interesting to know, your mom giving you this instrument to really, because that means a lot. My dad did the same thing. He got me a 335.
Yeah, having your parents be supportive.
Yeah.
Goes a long way. But a lot of people had parents that were anything but supportive, and they still
right.
Prospered and did great. So
but
everybody's different.
Those good stories where you had people, they were positive.
Yeah.
The affirmation was good, because that's when you start playing an instrument or getting involved in the arts, it is not an easy. It's not an easy when people tell me or ask me, what do you think? And I'm going, oh, well, you can do this, but this is the road. It's always good to be prepared. It's always good to study, and there's many ways to learn guitar. So there's like you said, there's the Alfred's method that you use, and then all of a sudden you say, well, I want the other stuff. And so obviously listening to the radio as a kid, doing all your studying, and then finally moving down to LA. And so you started, when did you really start doing session work? And when was that? Was that?
I mean, I was doing some session work even in college, because just people do stuff.
Right.
Or you meet somebody and they go, hey, I'm doing a jingle date, you want to do it, that kind of thing. Right. But I suppose, apart from, Tony Rizzi and Gerald and Louis Belson, like the first kind of big professional thing I did was Chuck Mangione.
What year did you do that?
So the first gig I ever did with him, I think, was in around November of 1976.
Oh, wow.
And somebody had just recommended me to him, and he was kind of looking for a guitar player. But anyway, he hired me sight unseen for a gig at Santa Monica Civic, and we did a day of rehearsal. And it was kind of with like an orchestra, like a brass section and some strings and stuff. But he liked what I did, and he said, well, I got a few more dates with just my quartet, small group. Do you want to tag along and see how it feels? And I'm like, yes, I do. And, little by little, one thing led to another, and he asked me to join his group, and I kind of waved goodbye to Cal State Northridge. But it was kind of like a crossroads a little bit, because I was already getting established as a studio player a bit, like doing stuff, getting going. And I realized, Chuck works a lot. He was on the road like 9 months out of the year.
He was already a busy, established
He was already,
artist.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm if I do this, all the session work, all that is going to be bye-bye, because you're gone, So, but I was like, yeah, this is what I always wanted to do, is like play jazz and, travel and be in a group like that. So I said, yeah, and it was great. It was super
How long
fun.
did that last? How long did you do that?
Well, initially I did 3 years, and I kind of took a year off because I got kind of sick of the road, and then I went back for 1 more year, and then that was it for then. And then over the years, we did reunion gigs and just some other stuff. So I always kept in contact with him, but there was a break of about maybe like 12 years where I would see him, though. I was in touch.
Right.
If he came to town, I'd go say hi and stuff like that. But there was about 12 years between when I played with him last and when we started doing this reunion stuff, like in '93.
It's like a Beatle reunion.
Well, I don't know if it was quite that important.
I know, but it's still, because when I was growing up, I mean, when you were growing up, you knew who was playing on what. There was these.
Well, that's how I knew who
the musicians were.
How sax player Tom Scott, or I knew who Howard Roberts was, or I knew who Barney Kessel was. You look on records and Shelly Manne, or Ray Brown, bass. Like
all
you
the
would
musicians, you knew who they were.
Yeah, you'd read the. Nowadays with streaming, you don't even know who plays on anything.
Yeah.
Can't even see the credits and stuff. But in those days, you'd be like, oh, I like that drummer. Who is that? It's Steve Gadd, or who, whatever. And so you kind of knew who people were.
Yeah. Oh, that's how I was. Oh, who's that guitarist? Grant Geissman. I know this guy. Well, that's awesome, man. So it's so I like hearing the stories, because lots of times I just, in my mind I have already a idea that you were strictly you had been here, but you had moved. You did what everybody else does. You come out here to
seek fame and fortune.
To see what can happen. So, alrighty, buddy. So, do you have like a website or something we can?
I do have a website, grantgeissman.com, and Geissman is Geissman.
Okay, cool.
And I guess I should plug my most recent album, which is called Blooz. I'm going to walk over here, camera.
You can walk. Yeah, that'd be cool.
And it looks a lot like this.
Maybe.
And I'll give you one.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
But it's got some great guest guitar players on it.
I heard of this.
There's a tune with me and Robin Ford on there called Robin's Hood. I wrote all the tunes.
Oh, awesome.
And there's a tune, three guitar tune, kind of this Bo Diddley kind of thing. That's me, Josh Smith, and Joe Bonamassa all trading.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty fun. And the good news is this got nominated for a Grammy.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yep.
That's great.
We didn't win, but I've never been nominated before. So it was great to be nominated,
That's
truly.
awesome.
You know?
Yeah. So they, so who won?
Who won? Snarky Puppy.
Oh, that puppy man. And I didn't mention this, but you also, I mean, you got into TV work too, right?
Got very lucky. Yeah, I co-wrote the music for all 12 seasons of a show called 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen and John Cryer. And we actually got nominated for an Emmy for co-writing the theme for 2.5 Men, which is very great. And that was a super fun show to do. And it's still, you know, knock on wood, it's in syndication, still play it.
Good.
And then we did all 6 seasons of a show called Mike and Molly.
Oh, okay.
Which was a super fun show. And, you know, I just got very lucky.
So you did the music for that also?
Yeah.
So it would be, so did you do the theme, the melody?
Not on Mike and Molly. We just did like the underscores, transition music and stuff like that. But it was kind of a lot of bluesy guitar stuff because the show was set in Chicago. So, you know.
That's so cool.
Great fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So and on 2.5 Men you did did you do the melody for that
I co-wrote the theme. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then we did a jazz version of it. Kind of I wrote a bridge and extended it, and I have an album called Say That we have an extended kind of jazz version of the theme from 2.5 Men, guitar instrumental version.
Cool. Yeah. So people have to check that out. You know, there'll be
please check my website out, and you know, you can find all this. If you don't want to buy a physical product, you can stream it if you must. But
I know we're obviously I'm here in Southern California, and I've got to hang out with a lot of my friends and people that I worked with in the past. And so that was one of the deals that we're talking about, the streaming and how people are making money with some writing music and trying to get money from that music we write. And it's a hard time, for those cats to say, well, I'm going to write this tune and going to make a lot of money, and all of a sudden it's...
That's why I got really lucky with the TV stuff. So, And actually, the TV stuff helps finance things like this.
Yes, exactly. Another cat, that's something people do. People, they have something happens, it's sort of weird because I know there's particular artists that will, like I think Johnny Depp came in like a guitarist, a rock guitar, and then he started acting. And so the next thing you know, my understanding is that that's what he really wanted to play guitar. He wanted to be in a band.
And now he's got both.
Now he has both,
because he sings and plays still, and he has a great acting career. So.
Right, isn't that crazy? So I like that. Yeah.
And so I love this instrument. I need to get one of these from you, but tell them what this is real quick.
This is a soprano guitar. It's basically it's built like a charango, like a Bolivian, South American instrument, and so it's all hollowed out. So basically, it's like you turn it over. This is like an egg, and so it's actually one piece of wood.
And a real charango is made with an armadillo.
And that's what armadillos. Yeah, the standard stuff for this is armadillos. But the thing is, it decomposes. So once it decomposes, it's gonna pop on you.
Wow!
And so I just decided to create it to where a guitar player can play it because it's tuned like a guitar. So it took a while just to get it going because you had to scale everything down or scale it up, and then figure out what strings work to have a good pitch, to hold a pitch.
Yeah.
And so it's been a fun thing. It's just something I did, I never expected anything, so. I just do things, Grant. I don't, half of the time, I don't know what I'm doing.
I love this. Thank you, Frank. This has been super fun.
Oh, thank you, Grant. Thanks for doing this, man.
It's great.
It's
Look
awesome. So you really like...
He makes these things. This guy.
Yeah, of all people. Who would think?
So cool.